Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with the 2025 to 2026 state governments and officials. Uh, we are on our final state. Finally, yeah, it's took me a while. I don't know why, but yeah. We are on the state of Wyoming. Uh, yeah. I've got it on the cabinet here. Let me pop it over to the right window. I just got up, so I'm going to be a bit wonky on getting things to roll right because my mind's still acclimating to being awake here. Anyway, the state of Wyoming is nicknamed the Equality State officially, but it's also known as the Cowboy State, which again you can see it in their universities. University of Wyoming, I do believe, is the Cowboys. So yeah. But anyway, there you can see it in the nation. It is one of these big square states, very similar to Colorado down to its southeast there, but yeah, Wyoming, least one of the least populous states in the United States. Its capital and largest city is Cheyenne, largest county or equivalent Laramie. Um, but anyway, landlocked state in the Mountain West subregion of the western U.S. that borders Montana to the north and northwest, South Dakota and Nebraska to the east, Idaho to the west, Utah to the southwest, and Colorado to the south. It only has an estimated population of 587,618 people as of 2024 and is the least populous state despite being the 10th largest by area and has the second lowest population density. Um, the state capital and most populous city is Cheyenne. So, but the one really good thing is the majority of the state is national park. Um, most of um, Yellowstone National Park is in the state of Wyoming. So, not heavily populated, but still a beautiful location. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the state's constitution. state constitution in 1889. In the Constitutional Convention, the Constitution was approved by a statewide vote and last amended in 2024. So it's only the one Constitution. And interesting note, first Constitution in the U.S. to explicitly give women the right to vote. Though an earlier New Jersey Constitution gave women who own property the right to vote because of an ambiguity in its text. The Wyoming Constitution said women have the right to vote. So yeah, but yeah. Let's see. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the government of Wyoming. First, the legislature. Bicameral body with a Senate and a House of Representatives. Your Senate President being Bo Bateman and House Speaker being Chip Nyman. It leans very far right wing. Its Senate being 31 seats, only 2 are Democrat, 31 are Republican, heavily red. And the House of Representatives, 62 seats, 6 are Democrat, 56 are Republican. But yeah. And of course, the state capital is in Cheyenne, of course, where the capital city is. Let's see. There are no term limits for either chamber. Again, talking about granting women the right to vote in the first Constitution it had. So yeah, the legislature. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the elected officials of the executive branch. They have a governor, Mark Gordon, but they have no lieutenant governor, which is why we go straight to the Secretary of State, Chuck Gray. Then you get the auditor, Christy Racines, and the treasurer, Kurt Meyer, and your superintendent of education, Megan Degenfelder. I believe that's all the elected officials, yeah. So 5 of them. And I think that's only the second state we've ever seen that doesn't have a lieutenant governor. So, first Constitution that allows women the right to vote, no lieutenant governor. Yeah, with that, let's look at the governor's cabinet, though. Your chief of staff, Drew Perkins. Your deputy counsel and, general counsel and deputy chief of staff, Betsy Anderson. Your policy director, Randall Luffy, or Luffy, I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. Deputy policy director, Sarah DeRienzo. Communications director, Amy Edmonds. Strategic communications director, Janelle Collins. Another special counsel, Lizzie Stephen. Senior policy advisor, Chad Auer. Senior policy advisor, Curtis Biggs. Senior policy advisor, Linda Cope. Policy advisor, Larry Henderson. Senior policy advisor, Nolan Rapp. Policy advisor, Seth Olvestad. Public records ombudsman, Darlena Potter. Office manager, special projects manager, Patricia Ross. Boards and commissions, Gabby Farmer. Governor's executive assistant, Karen Hayes. Tribal liaison to the Northern Arapaho tribe, Anita Roman. Tribal liaison to the Eastern Shoshone tribe, James Sorrells. Governor scheduler, Amy Elman. Executive assistant for policy advisors, Amy B. Bennett. Constituent services, Julia Thompson. Executive assistant, Judy Mitchell. IT special projects manager, Austin Mann. Administrative assistant, and Andrea Crosby. And then you have the First Lady's Chief of Staff and Residence Manager, Tricia Ostrom. Residence Buildings and Grounds, Andrew Lujan. Chief Executive, Katrina Pert. So you don't have any departments or anything like that? I asked for cabinet, and that's what they gave me. Okay, sure. With that being the case, let's look at the list of governors. Since we know Mark Gordon is our current governor for the state. They serve terms of 4 years that they can renew once, limited to an 8 years served in a 16-year period. So they could serve 1 term and 2 terms, but they can't go automatically right back after waiting a term. You'll have to wait out a term or 2 and then come back and pop up. So again, an interesting little quirk for the state of Wyoming. Originally, the governor could be elected any number of times, but in a 1992 referendum, the government has been limited to 8 years in office during any 16-year period, effectively limited them to 2 consecutive terms or 2 non-consecutive terms in a 16-year period. Yeah, you can go 1 term off, your 2nd term off at 16 years. You could do that. But with that, let's look at the list of governors for Wyoming, starting with it as a territory in 1869. The first territorial governor, John Allen Campbell, politician, officer in the U.S. Army, and first governor of the Wyoming Territory. He's followed by John Milton Thayer, general in the Union Army during the American Civil War, and later a U.S. Senator from Nebraska, governor of the Wyoming Territory, and governor of Nebraska. So, yeah. We see this a lot with a lot of the western states because they're being slowly entered. So you'll see politicians who literally are politicians. They do this for this state or this for this state, you know. So yeah, John Milton Thayer. He's followed by John Wesley Hoyt, politician, educator, 3rd governor of the Wyoming Territory. He's followed by William Hell, American politician, 4th governor for the Wyoming Territory, though he would serve until he would die in office. Then we get Francis E. Warren, a guy we'll see a few times here. He's the 5th territorial governor. Politician, served in the United States Senate for Wyoming, first elected governor of Wyoming. Like I said, we'll see him, and it's not the only point we'll see him in there. Soldier in the Union Army during the Civil War. So yeah, Francis E. Warren. He's followed by George W. Baxter, politician, territorial governor of Wyoming, 6th such. He's followed by Thomas Moonlight, politician, soldier, and 7th territorial governor for Wyoming. And your final territorial governor is Francis E. Warren, in for a 2nd time. And he starts off as the first elected governor, though he wouldn't stay in office long, only a few months. So the first elected governor, Francis E. Warren, he's followed by Amos W. Barber. Surgeon, politician, 2nd elected governor of Wyoming. He's followed by number 3, John Eugene Osborne, physician, farmer, banker, politician, 3rd governor of the state, and a U.S. representative in the Congress. So he's followed by William A. Richards, surveyor, rancher, politician, 4th governor of the state, and was commissioner of the General Land Office from 1903 to 1907. Then we have DeForest Richards, banker, farmer, politician, and 5th governor of the state of Wyoming, elected as a governor. First governor that is elected of the state to die while still in office. He's followed by Fenimore Chatterton, businessman, politician, lawyer, 6th governor of the state. And with those two, we officially enter the 1900s. Then we have Bryant Butler Crooks, businessman, rancher, politician, oilman, banker, and a published author, writer. 7th governor of the state. He's followed by Joseph M. Carey, who was a lawyer, rancher, judge, politician, and fairly active in politics, all in local, state, and federal politics for Wyoming. So, okay. He's followed by John B. Kendrick, politician, cattleman, served as senator for the state of Wyoming, and the 9th governor. And then Frank L. Ho, maybe who, something like that. Politician, 10th governor of the state, and 5th secretary of state for Wyoming. So yeah, just naming them down the line here: Robert D. Carey, William B. Ross, Frank Lucas. First female governor, Nellie Taylor Ross. Then Frank Emerson, Alonzo M. Clark, Leslie A. Miller, Nels H. Smith, Lester C. Hunt, Arthur G. Crane, Frank A. Barrett, Clifford Joy Rogers, Millward Simpson, Joe Hickey, Jack R. Gage, Clifford Hansen, Stanley K. Hathaway, Edgar Hirschler, Mike Sullivan, and we're getting into the modern era here with Jim Geringer. 2000s is where we enter. Dave Frudenthal, Matt Mead, and your modern governor, Mark Gordon. So yeah, history of the governors of Wyoming. With that, let's take a look at the courts. The state of Wyoming has a Supreme Court, but it seems to be the only actual appellate court. There's no Court of Appeals or anything like that as an intermediary. So, but under the Supreme Court level you have is Wyoming District Courts and the Wyoming Chancery Court, because they're sitting on the same level. And then below that you have the circuit courts. So yeah. That being said, let's take a look at the Wyoming Supreme Court. My mouse disappeared on me there. There are 5 justices of the Wyoming Supreme Court. They're all elected for periods of 8 years. One Chief Justice, 4 Associate Justices. After being appointed, a new justice stands for retention in office on a statewide ballot at the next general election. Okay, so they have to be originally appointed, and then they're in office for apparently, let's see, from a 3 nominee list for an 8-year term, and then 1 year after being appointed to the office, they stand for a retention vote before the general public. So, okay. If they are elected, they serve the remainder of their term and may stand for retention for succeeding 8-year terms by means of a nonpartisan retention ballot every 8 years. Must be a lawyer for at least 9 years experience in the law and at least 30 years of age, and have resided in Wyoming for at least 3 years. But they must retire when they hit the age of 70. But your justices for the Wyoming Supreme Court: Chief Justice Lynn J. Bloomgarden, with Associate Justices Carrie Jo Gray, John G. Finn, Robert Jarish, and Bridget Hill. So, yeah. That brings us to the next step down, the district courts. Because, like I said, there's no intermediate appellate court. The district courts are the courts of general jurisdiction in Wyoming. They hear all felony criminal cases and civil cases with an amount in controversy in excess of $50,000. So yeah, all your serious cases, all the big money cases, everything like that, you hear about a big robbery of hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, it goes straight to a district court. The district courts also exercise exclusive original jurisdiction in all juvenile and probate matters. The district courts also hear appeals from lower circuit courts, which are the courts of limited jurisdiction, that hear small claims and misdemeanor. All justices of the Wyoming Supreme Court, like justices of the Wyoming Supreme Court, district judges are chosen via the Wyoming Judicial Nominating Commission, and the governor appoints them from a list, and retention elections must be held following 1 year, as they are for the Supreme Court, and then they serve the remainder of their term. District judges serve 6-year terms instead of 8, and a district judge must be an attorney, at least 28 years of age, a U.S. citizen, a resident of Wyoming for at least 2 years, and must retire at the age of 70. Each district judge hires a court reporter to keep verbatim the court record of proceedings. You know, usually the little person you see typing the stuff out in the court. That's what they do. They sit there to get everything that is said in court on record. So yeah, and prepares a written transcript of proceedings and is often necessary for appeals or other further legal action. Court reporters also serve as assistants to district judge with administrative duties. Some district courts have full-time or part-time law clerks. An elected clerk of court in each county keeps the records of the district court, including case files. So your court reporter writes the stuff down, and the law clerk or clerk of court keeps the stuff filed. Yeah, map of Wyoming and its district courts, with this being the first judicial district, second judicial district, third judicial district, all the way up here, the fourth judicial district, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and the gray is your ninth. Wyoming has a total of 23 counties divided into 9 districts with a total of 22 judges. District court is held in the county seat of each county, and the judges thus regularly travel to all counties within their district to hear cases that arise there. Okay, so yeah, like we said, there's no intermediate appellate court, so all appeals go directly to the Supreme Court of Wyoming. Though here, just in 2019, the Chancery Court, which we're going to talk about next, was created by legislation with a limited and defined subject matter jurisdiction over business, commercial, and trust litigation. But yeah, let's look at the district courts of Wyoming, which brings us, like I said, to the Chancery courts. Streamlined judicial forum for addressing commercial, business, and trust cases litigated in the state courts, with a unique focus on digital assets and everything, blockchain, NFTs, digital coins. I'm so tired of that stuff. It's screwed over everything. Anyway, yeah, because the legislature passed a law Unlike traditional chancery court, which is a court of equity, Wyoming's new chancery court was given jurisdiction over purely monetary disputes with more than $50,000 at issue, as well as actions in equity with a limited subject matter and jurisdiction focusing on disputes of a business and commercial nature. One early stated goal for the Chancery Court involves Wyoming seeing itself in a unique role playing cryptocurrency, a fucking thing that should be banned, and blockchain technology. Coupled with Wyoming's innovative legal framework, digital assets, blockchain technologies, the Chancery Court should attract blockchain businesses and cryptocurrency companies to the state. And it went official December 1st, 2021. The court has its own set of rules. All parties must consent to the Chancery Court's jurisdiction, so a single party may timely object to that jurisdiction and have the case dismissed from the Chancery Court. The Chancery Court does not have jury trials and is to employ alternative dispute resolution, including early mediation, limited motion practice, and carefully monitored and tailored discovery in making sure cases are handled expeditiously and effectively. The court publishes its written legal decisions and can have up to 3 judges, and currently, as of June 2024, has 2. The judges have concurrent statewide jurisdiction with Wyoming's district court, like I was saying, same set level there. That's why they're on that same level when we were looking at them in the list of courts. The trial court of general jurisdiction judges over matters within the Chancery Court's jurisdiction. Chancery Court judges receive the same salaries as district court judges and will be similarly chosen on a merit-based system, though they must be knowledgeable in commercial law. There is a separate clerk for the Chancery Court. It is the first state trial court in Wyoming to use electronic filing. Honestly, I think every business should be tried as any individual is. If you want to proclaim you're a person, like the old saying of Republicans after the Citizens United decision, then you need to be tried as a person. You need to be held accountable for murders, for other such gruesome acts. I don't think you should get the right of your own personal business type of hearing. Either you're like a person or you're not. Choose. But we'll go ahead and end this video here. Because, yeah, we just didn't have much content available for Wyoming. I looked. I dug. Anyway. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. And it needs to be decent sources. It can't just be blog posts and unproven sites. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.